The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, very good afternoon. Hope you're all doing fine. First of all, many thanks for joining us on our workshop. Thank you so much for spending your time in registering during your busy schedule because your participation means a lot to us here at ADManager. So we, the AD Solutions team, hope to make sure that this session is going to be valuable and you will gain something out of it. I welcome you all for today's session on ADManager Plus. I hope that my voice is audible and the screen is well and clear. If not, kindly let us know through the chat. Now let me introduce myself. My name is Anu, a senior technician at ADManager Plus, and I'm your presenter for the day. So I'm pretty sure that you all know about this series of ADManager Plus workshop. This is workshop number 3. Last 2 weeks, we were looking on user management. So we discussed about user provisioning and user account modification without any complex scripts. So we were looking on easy ways with which you can make tasks as an administrator very much easier with the help of ADManager Plus. So we were looking on how you can create user accounts and then delegate Exchange or Office 365 properties from a single window, and also we have seen how you can make user modification in bulk. Say you can modify user accounts, say 10 user accounts or 20 user accounts all at one time. Okay, so this week on workshop number 3, we will be discussing about Active Directory delegation. So when I say delegation, so I will be telling you how you can delegate certain tasks to your HR or your network administrators. And then we will be discussing about help desk business workflow, where you will learn on how you can set a standardized structure for your organization. Say for example, all your tasks related to your Active Directory administration can follow a request approval and execution pattern. So having said that, let me quickly share with you the agenda for the day. So as a first step, I will be telling you how you can enforce attribute level restriction for error-free account creation or modification as per your organizational policy. And the next thing is I will be telling you on how you can create a user management console for your HR executives or your branch heads to create and manage their team accounts. And the next thing is, say for example, you want to restrict the administrator of a location from modifying accounts of other location. Say for example, you have an administrator at a location London and you do not want them to modify any accounts in the location Middle East. So how to ensure that? I'll be telling you all that in the first half of today's session. And in the second half of today's session, we will be discussing about help desk workflow. So when I say workflow, say for example, you as an administrator, you wouldn't want your HR people to perform user provisioning or modifying accounts without the approval of manager, then you can follow a pattern of request approval execution pattern. So how to achieve that? I'll tell you how. So instead letting your administrators perform some Active Directory task directly, then you can configure them as a requester in ADManager Plus so that you can raise any request regarding Active Directory task using the application and it gets forwarded to next level for approval. So where you as an administrator can review it, make a comment on it, and then approve and execute if you feel it a valid, and if you don't think it is a valid request, then you can straight away decline that request as well. Okay, so is there anything else that the workflow supports? Yes, there are few more options that the application supports, wherein you can assign specific rules to your IT technician or your network administrator. Say for example, whenever a user creation request is raised, you want to assign it to a specific technician. So you can achieve it with the help of assigning rules. And also, you can configure who should be notified or when they should be notified with what message by using notification rules. So you can auto assign tickets to right technician, and at the same time you can track their progress through email. So without any further delay, let me take you to the application. So if you have ADManager Plus configured at your end, kindly make use of it. Or if you don't have ADManager Plus at your end, you don't have to worry about it. Let me share the URL for accessing the test lab that we have set up and hosted online. So kindly look at the chat window for the URL. So the URL for accessing the test lab is admp.cloudapp.net, and the username for logging into the application is ADMP, and the password is workshop with W capitalized. So kindly log on to ADManager Plus authentication. This is a local authentication, not a domain authentication. So kindly log in using ADManager Plus authentication. So I hope that you all have logged into the application. Let me log in as well. So kindly log in using ADManager Plus authentication. So once you log into the application, you will be welcomed with the product dashboard. So as a first step, let me tell you how you can enforce attribute level restriction for your technician when they create user accounts. So for which you need to go to Active Directory Delegation. So go to AD Delegation tab. So when I say delegation, it means that you can create a customized task related to your Active Directory, and then you can assign them to your IT technician or your HR or your network administrator. So now I'm going so that you can securely delegate certain roles to the users in your Active Directory environment. So you as an administrator may want to grant certain user management permission to a particular user from organization. So how to do it? I'll be telling you how. As a first step, let me create a role for which you need to go to Help Desk roles that you can see on the left side of the screen. Click Help Desk roles. So roles are the actions that you want to assign to your technicians. So I'm going to create a role for my IT technician. So let me just click Create New Role. So you can see that link on the right side of the screen. Click Create New Role. So since I'm going to create this role for my people at my organization, so let me name this role to be role for HR/IT technician. Okay. So as you can see here, you can specify what are all the tasks that this role can hold. So when you map this role to a technician later on, then that technician will have permission to modify the things that you specify here. So let me just select all the attributes. So let me just select AD management, AD reports. So wherein you can choose what are all the reports that you want this particular technician associated with this role to generate. And then let me just click administration as well. So as I said, I'm going to enforce attribute level restriction. So say for example, I have delegated permission for creating a single user and creating bulk user. So I'm going to enforce attribute level restriction such that this role, the technician who is assigned with this role cannot modify certain attributes like initials or exchange properties or link properties. So just click this user attribute privileges, and then so let me choose such that he cannot modify initials, the middle name, and then he cannot modify any terminal properties, or he cannot modify link properties, or he cannot modify any of the exchange attributes. Okay, so I'm done with enforcing attribute level restriction. Let me click OK. Besides that, when doing bulk user modification, if you want to provide any restriction on the attribute level, say for example, when modifying address or organizational attributes, you do not want this role to modify the title or department, you can simply uncheck them. Okay, so this is how you can enforce attribute level restriction for a user, for a role. Okay, so now let me save this role. And the next step is to map this role to a particular technician. So you can see this role to be listed here. So the next step is to create a technician and then map this role to that technician. So go to Help Desk Technicians that you can see on the left side of the screen. So click Help Desk Technicians. So as a first step, let me create a new technician. Let me just click this link, Add New Technician. Okay, you can choose the domain since there's only one domain configured here. If you have multiple domains configured at your end, you can simply select the domain from which you want to add a technician, and the next step is to select the Active Directory user. Just click this plus icon so that you can just choose the Active Directory users. You can choose n number of users here. So let me just create a single technician for now. Say for example, my user account is going to be HR account. So let me search for that particular user account and then select this account and then hit OK. And the next step is to map the role that you have created to this technician. So just click this plus icon so that you can see the list of roles present in ADManager Plus. So my role is role for HR or IT technician. So let me select this role. You can even select multiple roles that can be associated to these technicians. Okay, as of now, let me select only one role and then hit OK. So this impersonate as admin. So this is nothing but, say for example, this user account, HR account 2, does not have permission to create or modify user accounts in Active Directory. But then you can add them as a technician here and then select impersonate as admin. So when you select this impersonate as admin, so the credentials that you give under domain settings, those credentials will be used whenever this user account, this technician performs any operation in ADManager Plus. So if he cannot create user account in Active Directory, but he is vested with impersonate as admin permission in ADManager Plus, then he can create user account using ADManager Plus. But this user permission in Active Directory will not be altered. He remains inactive. I mean, he cannot create user accounts in Active Directory directly. Okay, so I'm done with creating, I'm done with choosing my technician and then mapping the role for my technician. So let me just hit save to add this technician. Okay, so let me log out and log in with this technician in order to see whether the restriction based on attribute level has been enforced or not. Let me sign out and then log in with this technician HR account. Okay, the username is HR account. Let me enter the password. So this is going to be a domain authentication. So since this user account belongs to this domain workshop, so this will follow a domain authentication. So previously we logged on using local authentication, ADManager Plus authentication, but now this is going to be a domain authentication. Okay, so let me click login. So in order to check for enforced attribute level restriction, let me just go and try creating a user account. Go to AD Management tab. So as you can see here, I have just selected all the options under AD Management, Reports and Administration. So this account, this technician has access to all these tabs. Okay, so let me click User Management and then click Create Single User. So let me check whether he can he can specify exchange or terminal related attributes. Okay, so as you can see here, he cannot modify initials or he cannot change the exchange related properties. Let me click Exchange tab, Mailbox Enabled User. So since you can see here, he does not make changes related to exchange. In the similar way, he cannot change any of the terminal services attributes. Okay, so this is how you can enforce attribute level restriction for your technicians. The next step is to create a user management console for HR executive. So as you can see here, this technician HR account has permission to access all the tabs and to access all the objects in Active Directory. So he can create a contact account or a group account and so on. But now I'm going to create a user management console such that he does not have permission to make any changes with other objects. Say he cannot create or modify group or contact or any mailbox accounts. So he will be just vested with the permission of user management console. Okay, so let me sign out and log in with the admin account. So now I'm going to restrict this user account to only he can create or modify user accounts. So go to AD delegation tab and then click help desk roles. So you need not change anything with the technician. You have to just modify the role that you have created. So the role is role for HR or IT tech. Okay. So now let me just remove the permission so that he cannot create computer accounts or he cannot create any contact account and all these. So let me just remove the permission for this role from all other objects in Active Directory. And then let me remove the security management permission as well. And then Office 365 management permission as well. So let me just select all the Active Directory reports, but let me remove the administration permission. Okay. So now he can only create user account and then I'm not going to provide him with all bulk user modification. So let me remove terminal services option and exchange attribute option so that he cannot modify any exchange related or terminal services related attributes for any of his user accounts. Okay. So if you do not want this role or the technician who is mapped to this role to perform any bulk modification, you can simply select this option deny bulk modification. And also if you do not want this technician who is mapped with this role to import a CSV file, then you can simply select deny CSV import. But right now, let me just make it simple so that this user account who is mapped to this role can create user account, but he does not have permission to create or modify any other objects in Active Directory. Okay, let me save this role. Let me log out and log in with this technician HR account. Okay, let me sign out. and then log in with HR account. Let me log in. So now we can see that he has permission only to modify the user account, and also he can generate all the reports. Say for example, he can generate user reports, group reports, contact reports, and all that. Okay. So right now, this user account has access to all the organizational unit present in your organization. Let me click Create Single User, and then let me check whether this user account has permission to create user account in all the organizational units. So let me click this pencil icon near Select Container so that I can check what are all the organizational units that he can access. So as you can see here, this user account has, this technician has permission to access all the OUs and the containers present in your environment. So now, as a third step, I want to restrict the administrator of a location from modifying accounts of another location. So which means, let me say that he has permission only to create or modify accounts in employees Middle East. So how to ensure or how to enforce such a restriction using ADManager Plus? Let me show you how. So let me sign out and then log in with admin account. So when you log in with the admin account, go to AD delegation, and then the next thing is I need to edit my technician. So as you can see here, click this edit icon near HR account so that you can make any changes that you want on this particular technician. So the first step is I need to enforce restriction at a location level. So let me just click this add OUs. So when I click this, you can select the OUs with which this technician will have permission to. So let me select employees Middle East and then click OK. So if you want to assign any templates for this technician, you can specify that as well. So click this add or remove templates. So when you click this link, you can just specify whether he has access to all the template, or if you do not want this particular technician to access any particular template, then you can simply uncheck those templates and then hit OK. And then if you want to specify any permissions for groups for this particular technician, then you can specify that as well. So when you specify any groups under included groups, then this means that this technician HR account has permission to access only these two groups. He can make any modification only on that group. And if you specify any groups under excluded groups, then this means that apart from these groups, this technician can have access to all the other groups. So let me just click this add button. So there are two ways with which you can specify the groups for this technician. One thing is you can straight away select the groups for your technician, or just click this organizational unit based groups. So when you select an organizational unit, then all the groups under this particular organizational unit will be given permission for this technician. Okay, so let me just make it simple. I have just specified the template and OU for this technician. Let me hit Save Changes. Okay, so let me just sign out and then sign it with this HR account technician so that I can verify whether the restriction based on location has been enforced or not. Okay, so once I log in, let me just click create single user and then verify what are all the organizational unit that this technician has access to. So just click this pencil icon. As you can see here, only employees Middle East is the organizational unit that this particular technician has permission to. Okay, so the next thing in the next half of today's session, we will be focusing on workflow. Okay, so let me sign out and then log in as admin. So before I move to workflow part, let me just tell you the other things that you can make use of under AD delegation tab. So the first thing is audit report. So audit report is nothing but where you can find all the results that you have performed under AD management tab. So whenever you create a user or whenever you move a user using ADManager Plus, or whenever you make any changes, any management operation on any object, say user account, let it be user account or it can be group accounts or contact accounts, those changes will be tracked under audit report. So you can just generate this report for a specific period, say for last 24 hours or for last 30 days, or even you can specify a custom period. So with this report, you can just go and see what operation has been done. So this is like it can be move user or it can be create user or it can be reset password and anything, and then at what time this operation was done and on what object, and also you can see the details. So it states it's move user, so you can see from where this user account was moved from. So this account was moved to workshop from workshop. Okay, so this account has been moved from this organizational unit to this organizational unit. So this is how you can have a track of all the management operations that you perform or your technician perform. Even you can see which technician has made these changes. So you can have all that record under audit report. And the next thing is under admin audit report. So you can see whenever any changes has been done for your technician or whenever any changes has been done on the help desk roles. So those changes will be tracked under admin audit report. So as you can see here, this user account so that I created recently, so that you can see here this user account was created and then this was modified. So you can get all these record under admin audit report. And the next thing is technician's report. So under this report, you can generate a customized report regarding your technician. Say for example, if you have multiple domains in your environment and you want to see who are all the technicians that are present in ADManager Plus from a particular domain. So you can just select technicians domain. So when you click this filter icon, so you can choose the criteria so that the report will be generated based on that criteria. So select your domain. So as you can see here, so there is only one technician from this particular domain. And also if you want to check what are all the technicians have permission on a particular domain, you can generate that as well. So as you can see here, there are 4 technicians who have access to this particular domain. So in this way, you can generate a customized report regarding your technicians. Okay, so let me go to the second half for today's session. That will be about help desk business workflow. So this defines an order of execution for your important administrative task in your environment. So with the help of business workflow, you can set a standardized structure for your organization. So when you click this edit workflow, you can define whether you have only request hour or you have a reviewer, an approver, an executor. So this is how you can define and state how your organization will function. Say for example, you do not want your HR people to straight away create user accounts in Active Directory. Then you can configure them as request star. So I'll be telling you how you can configure request stars and executors. So you can configure them as a request star, and then they will raise a request for a particular action, say for user creation or say for user modification. And then you can either execute it if you have just configured executor, or you can review it so that the reviewer can weigh the pros and cons of the request raised, and then he can give a comment on it. And then if you want a particular person to finalize that whether that action should be taken place or not, then you can have approver as well. So at the finally, you have executor who either approves the action to be executed in Active Directory, or he can either reject this action. Okay, so let me make it simple. Let me just have request star and executor in my environment. So let me save this. So as a first step, I want to make my HR account as a request star so that he can raise a request for creating user account. Okay, so click request star, but before creating a request star, so likewise you created a help desk role, you can also create a request star role. So let me create a request star role first. So click request star roles that you can see on the left side under workflow tab. Let me click create new role. Let me name this role as, so let me name this role as HR role. So I'm going to use this role for creating users and also bulk user creation. So let me choose templates so such that this request star can choose the templates available in ADManager Plus. Okay, let me save this role. You can also decide whether whether the request star have access to all the organizational unit on templates like you did for technician. So let me just go to request stars, and then let me create a request star. So either you can add a new request star, so which means you can choose a particular user account from your Active Directory, and then you can select a requester role. You can map a requester role for that requester and then hit save, or you can associate a help desk technician to requester. So let me click associate help desk technician. Let me choose my technician HR account and then hit OK. So let me choose my requester role, which is HR role, and then hit OK. So as I told you, you can select OUs for this requester. I'm going to give permission for all my organizational unit for this particular HR. So let me add this technician to the requesters. Okay. So let me edit this requester. So click this edit icon so that you can choose the templates for this requester. Okay. So for user creation, I just want this particular requester to use the template IT workshop and exchange user template. So let me choose the default template for this requester and then hit OK. Let me save the changes. So let me show you how you can raise a request as a HR account. Let me sign out and then log in with this HR account technician. So he is now a requester as well. Okay, so the first step is to raise a request. So as you can see here, there's a tab with the name requests. So we need to create a single user creation request. So under create request, click single user creation, and then as you can see here, IT workshop is the default template for this request star. So this template IT workshop has only general account and contact tabs. So let me name the user to be, say, Jack test, say 100. So I just named this user account. So let me just click create request. Okay, you need to enter the subject field, which is mandatory. So let me say user creation. Okay, you can also set the priority, whether it is normal, high, or medium, or low. So let me select normal and then click create request. So now this HR account has specified the basic attributes, the name attributes, SAM account name and full name. So you do not want this HR account to modify or specify any exchange or terminal related properties, and hence he can only specify the name attributes for this user account. Okay, let me sign out and then log in with admin account so that I can execute this request. By default, admin is a executor. Okay, let me log in. So once you log in, you need to go to workflow tab. So if you want to add any executors, just click executors on the left side of the screen and then you can add executors. So by default, admin is an executor. So I'm not going to add any executor right now. Okay, so let me click all requests. So when you click all requests, you can see all the requests raised so far. So my request, the request I raised using HR account is user creation. So let me click this user creation. So either you can execute this request or you can reject this request. Or if you want to modify any changes to this process, create user, you can do that as well. So say for example, in this user creation request, this HR account specified only name attributes for this user account. And if you want to specify the password or you want to specify any exchange related attribute, you can specify that as well. So click view objects. Now you can see the details for this user account. You can see what are all the attributes that has been set for this user account. So now if you want to set exchange related attribute, so either click system template or you can create your own template. So I have created my own template, exchange user template. Let me select this template and then click OK. So where I have specified the exchange related details for my user accounts. So let me click exchange tab and let me see the exchange properties for this user account. So let me specify the password for this user account as well. So select type a password. So whenever you type a password, make sure that this meets the domain complexity. Okay, so once you are done modifying this user account, just hit OK. So now this details will be saved here. So later if you want to execute this request, so you can simply click the request button or you can simply reject this request. So let me go to all requests and then choose my request user creation. Okay, so you can decide whether you can execute this request or you want to reject this request. Let me click execute, so you can give a comment for your execute request. Say for example, all details have been verified. And then hit OK. So when you hit OK, this request will be executed. So now you can see that this particular user account will be created in Active Directory. So you can see the status here that this request has been executed and it has been closed. Okay, so this is how you can perform a ticket-based execution of Active Directory task with multi-level workflow. So the next thing is, if you want to perform approval-based group subscription for enhanced security, say for example, so now you have created a user account through a request and approval execution pattern. And as a next thing, if you want to raise a request, you do not want your IT technician to straight away modify the group membership for your user account. Instead, you want them to raise it as a request. So how do I do that? So let me just modify the requester role so that my IT technician or HR account can raise a request for modifying the group membership. So my role is HR role. So I'm going to give them permission to add to group, remove from group, and then move users. Let me save this role. Okay, so now let me sign out and then log in with the HR account and then raise a request for modifying the group membership. Okay, let me go to request tab. So now I need to make changes in group membership. So let me add a particular user account to a particular group. Okay, so just click this plus icon so that you can choose the group in which some particular technicians will be added to. Okay, I suppose there are no groups present in the particular. Okay, let me sign out and then provide permission for this technician first. Okay, let me log in and then let me provide permission for this particular technician. So I have provided only one single group and then I have not specified any group here. So if there is no group present in this particular OU, then that will not be listed for that particular technician. So any other group will not be listed for this particular technician. So let me just provide permission for all the organizational unit for this technician and for that requester as well, so that he can make changes regarding the group membership. So let me go to requesters and then edit my requester HR account to. Okay, so this requester is vested with all organizational unit permission. Okay, let me sign out and then log in with this HR account. Let me log in. So let me go to request tab and then choose the option add to group. Okay, so let me click this plus icon such that all the groups present in your organization will be listed here. So you can just select few groups. Let me randomly select some groups and then hit OK. So you can also decide the priority here. Then it is mandatory to mention the subject. Say for example, let it be add to groups. And then you need to choose the user accounts. Say for example, let me select this account and then let me select few more accounts as well. Okay, let me hit create request. So either when you type here, you can choose the user accounts as you type, or you can simply click choose option and then pick the users from this pop-up. So you can just select from this pop-up and hit OK, or you can just select from this type box as well. Just click create request. Okay, so let me sign out and then execute this request as an executor. So let me sign out and then log in with admin account, who is by default a executor. For which you need to go to workflow tab and then click all request. So under all request, you can see all the requests that have been raised so far. So the request that I raised recently is added to groups. So click this request and then either you can execute this request, or if you want to reject this request, say for example I'm going to reject this request, you can specify the reason for this request, or simply you can just hit OK. So say for example this request is not valid, you can specify the comments and then hit OK. So such that you can reject this request. Okay, so this is how you can either execute a particular request or you can simply reject a particular request. And the next thing is how to also auto assign tickets to your technicians. Say for example, whenever your user creation a request is raised, you wanted to assign it to a particular technician. So how do I do that? Let me tell you how to do that. So for which you need to configure the assigning rules. So let me click assigning rules. So this is where you can specify when a user creation request is created. So whom do you want it to assign, or if you have some other roles configured, say for example, so under business workflow, if you have configured reviewer and approver, just hit save. So you can also decide whenever a request is raised, so to the next board level members. So let me tell you how. So whenever a request is raised, for whom it should be assigned. So just click this add new rule. Say for example, creation rule. So you can specify the criteria whenever the action is, say, any creation action. Say for example, it can be user creation, or so it can be create user, or the action can be create bulk user, and also if the priority is high, click OK. So this means that when action is create user, or if it is create bulk user, or if the priority is high, you want this request, those requests to be automatically assigned to a technician. So you can choose the technician in assign to. So say for example, I want to assign this to my help desk technician or HR associate. So you can choose that particular technician and then hit OK. So let me save this rule. So in the similar way, whenever a request is reviewed, so whom do you want this request to be assigned to? So you can specify that as well. Or when a request is approved, whom do you want this particular request to be assigned to? You can configure that as well under assigning rules. And the next thing is, if you want to notify any of your technicians or anybody whenever a request is raised or approved or reviewed or executed, or even when it is rejected, so you can notify any technician or any person in your organization. So say for example, when a request is created, click notify such that you can specify you want to notify the requester as well as the next level board members, that is the reviewers. So when a request is created, you want to notify the requester and notify the reviewers. And also if you want to notify any technicians that are configured under AD delegation, you can specify that as well. Or if you want to provide any custom emails, you can provide that as well here. If you want to customize your message, just click Customize Message. So you can specify the subject and the message here. So this is where you can customize the message that you want to send to your technician or your reviewers or your executors. So you can specify that here. So in a similar way, if you want to notify whenever a request is reviewed, so you can do that as well. So you can notify your technicians whenever a request is created or reviewed or approved or executed, or even when it is rejected. So you can configure all that under notification rules. So this is how you can auto assign tickets, and as well you can track them through email. So we have come to the end of the session. So in today's session, we have seen how to create technicians and then how to delegate certain tasks to them with the help of roles, wherein you specify the particular actions that this particular technician can perform, whether he can perform creation users or he can create contact or any other objects. So you can specify all that under help this technician. And also we have seen how you can provide or enforce restriction based on location, based on organizational unit level. And in the second half, we have seen how you can customize or how you can set business workflow for your organization. So how you can configure certain people to be requester, and then I've told you how you can make them raise a request, and then you as an administrator or you as a manager, you can review, approve and execute that request. So this is all for today. And on next session on week 4, we will be looking on Active Directory reporting and also NTFS permission management. So we'll be seeing all that in next session on the same day, on next Tuesday at the same time. So I hope that you all will continue with us in the next session. So after the end of this session, you will be sent a survey form. I request you to kindly fill the survey form so that your feedback can be valuable and it will help us improve at our end. So I request you to kindly fill that survey form, and also I request you and request your participation in the next session as well. Thank you so much for today and have a good day.